All right, well, let me begin this, start our time with a prayer, and then we'll jump into our agenda and share with you some of the things that we want to talk about tonight. But let's begin with prayer. Father God, we give thanks for this incredible calling that you've given to us to serve the kids of C3 and the surrounding community. And God, I pray for this time as we kind of just go through some of the expectations and the thoughts leading into our return. I just ask God that you would bless this time, and Lord, that as we look forward to the 11th, not only would you get us excited about it, but that you would also get the kids excited about this, get parents excited about it, so that it's a great thing that we kind of relaunch here in a couple weeks. We love you and we thank you for the call to ministry that you've given to us. And so we ask you to bless this time tonight. For it's in Christ's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I'm getting a little echo on my end, but I think that's my computer. I'm using a different computer than usual, so hopefully we don't have any issues. All right. First thing, thanks everybody for taking some time. I know it's a little shorter notice. When we put this out to do this call, so I know the window of time has been a little less than probably we should have put out, but thank you for taking the time to come and be here tonight and to hear some of the plans that we're still making. Nothing's in concrete, but we're still kind of moving ourselves forward closer and closer to April 11th. That is our official welcome back or return for C3Kids. And when we picked that date, it seems so long ago. And now we're like, can we push it back maybe? I'm not sure we're ready yet, but I think after tonight we'll be in a good place, and I'm excited for that. So couple things. I think you guys all know Kristin here. So you guys already know we have our team leaders. We started trying to do this just before COVID, in that we asked a few C3 kid leaders to step up and kind of take on an extra role of team leader to help work within the different classrooms, organizing and connecting with volunteers, and trying to build a little bit of a team effort in all of this. And of course, just as we were getting started with all that, COVID hit, and that's just another thing that C3 put on the back burners, because it's not much we can do when we can't do what we're here to do. So, but Kristin is our team leader for the outfitter groups. And since this return mostly affects the kids that will be in outfitters, she and I have gotten together and we've kind of really thought through what is it going to look like for us to do the outfitter kids. And so in case we don't know, I asked Kristin maybe just to give a little, hi, I'm Kristin. So Kristin, just tell us a little bit about you so everybody knows who you are.
All right. Well, I have met most of you, but hello. We're excited that we're finally getting to have this conversation. As Jay said, my name is Kristin, Kristin Potts. My husband Taylor and I, I feel like we met doing kids ministry, and I don't remember a point in my life that I wasn't doing kids ministry. So, you know, we've been involved with it in one capacity or another for almost 15 years. So it's really a team effort. I will say I'm kind of the face of it because Taylor's downstairs doing bedtime with our two little ones, but we are definitely a team effort. And anytime Jay and I have meetings, it's also a result of Taylor and I late at night saying, okay, now what are we gonna do about this? But we're all super excited that we're having this conversation and getting ready in less than 2 weeks. It's crazy to jump back in. And as Jay mentioned, I am dubbed the team leader of the outfitter kids. So my job really is to be liaison between Jay and the volunteers, and just to kind of try to I don't know, help Jay in any way that I can, because he's in charge of every kid in C3 from birth till they graduate college, and that's a lot. So
And Kristen's not our only team leader. Chris and Janice, you guys are serving as team leaders currently. We'll talk more about what that looks like going into the future. And then Amy is a team leader as well. So yeah, so it's not an individual thing. It's something that we're trying to bring into all of the different areas of C3Kids. And one of my hopes is as we get back into doing ministry again, we can kind of hash out what this actually looks like and why we think these team leaders are so important. So let me just go through and just bring us up to speed with kind of what C3Kids is started to look like in the beginning of 2020. If you remember, we had just remodeled. We took on some new names for the rooms. We were bringing out kind of some new stuff based on this remodel. And so Outfitter Kids became, well, let me back up this way. We used to have First Steps, and then what was the other one? Noah's Place, that's it. Noah's Place and First Steps. That age group became Mountain Kids. And then we had our Sprouts and COVID, almost said COVID Junior.
COVID Kids Junior.
COVID Kids Junior. Cub Kids Junior. They became the River Kids. And then everything from kindergarten up through 5th grade became Outfitter Kids. And we were just starting to use those terms. And so as you can tell, I've already forgotten a lot of that stuff since we haven't been using them for so long. But that's kind of where we're going. Let me just share a little bit about what our plans are moving forward, and I'm going to let Kristin jump into some of the details. So a little while ago, we had just a Q&A time with the team leaders where we just started asking questions about if we were to return, what does that look like? And the questions weren't for us to answer, they were just for us to start asking questions that we would need to possibly address. After that, the decision was made that we focus on bringing Outfitter Kids back first. And so as we began thinking about what that looks like, that's when I brought Kristin in and we start having these conversations about what we were thinking for the Outfitter Kids. Now at that point, again, we were only expecting to bring Outfitter Kids back. Our reasoning for that was most of the kids in that age group are already back to 5-day school. Well, they are now, but they were already in that process of coming back to 5 days of school. They're the ones that are, most used already to having masks on. They're the ones that are used to the social distancing that are taking places in the schools. And when it comes to how we can present something to them, our idea was to do a large group event or gathering time in the North Wing. And so when we thought about what that looks like, the Outfitter Kids became the natural, here's our first step back. Now, since that initial conversation, we have started thinking, well, what about all of the others? And so now we're kind of broadening that a little bit in that on the 11th, we are anticipating opening up the mountain rooms again. And again, that would be Noah's Place and First Steps. And so now we're looking at having 2 openings, Mountain Kids and then Outfitter Kids. And Outfitter Kids will be a little bit more open in that we're going to welcome any pre-K kid into that space. And any kid that is not in pre-K yet is actually going to bump down into the Mountain Kids. And that's primarily because of our situation with leaders right now. We do not have enough leaders to reopen all of the rooms. And so as we think about what that looks like safety-wise, we thought it's the best for us to have one larger group and then one little less large group and just focus on staffing 2 areas. That's also why we chose 11:15, one service, over trying to staff both services, simply because we just don't have the volunteers at this point to be able to do 2 kids services. Generally 11:15 is the more attended service for families. And so the decision was made, well, let's start with that. Even though I think we were initially thinking the 9:30 service would be our starting point, when we looked at who was starting to show, even at church already, there are more families coming already to 11:15. So it makes a little bit more sense that we address that first. So that's kind of the explanation of why we're doing the hybrid pre-K through 5th grade, and then the mountain kids. It's going to be anyone from 3-year-old down. During the first service, we're not going to have those rooms staffed. However, we are going to open up the mountain room for any nursing moms or moms and dads with really young ones that need diaper change or just need a change of scenery, so that they can still come and participate, but then the mountain space will be there for them they can slide into that room and utilize those areas. And in those 2 rooms, we will be streaming the service into just those 2 rooms. So then any mom or dad who needs to use that space can still feel like they're participating in the service. Between services, we'll spray everything down and get it ready for the 11:15. So that's kind of the behind the scenes, the short explanation of the hybrid. Any questions regarding that? Okay, great. Then I'm going to turn it over to Kristin, and Kristin's going to walk through a little bit more of what it's going to look like, this hybrid thing that we're going to do on Sundays.
Okay, so I'm going to really just kind of talk about from start to finish, what does the service look like for our kids? The check-in is it's mainly going to be the same. We're going to utilize hopefully an app and get some kids checked in beforehand, which will help us as volunteers to kind of know ahead of time who's coming and what to expect that way. But basically, once they get back to us is what I'm going to cover. The parents will still do the check-in in the normal place with their kids. It'll, look slightly different, but they'll bring their kids back to us in the North Wing. And our intention is to have a leader right there at the door to greet them in our first month or so back. You're muted.
Do you want that graphic?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
But we're going to have a volunteer greet them at the door with hand sanitizer, and we are going to have extra masks if the kids do not have them. We are going to require that in our classroom. And then we will escort, there we go, there's our map. Okay, so the green arrows, when parents come to drop off their kiddos, they will drop them off at the door and be greeted there. And then as you can see, we're changing how we're setting up the classroom. We're gonna sort of flip it over to the side and have the stage right up front in the middle. And all of the circles there are tables. So we're gonna have our kids sit at tables. If they are with a sibling, they will sit in sibling groups. If it's a single child, based on social distancing, I think we have to measure tables, but we'll see exactly how many kids we could get at each table and safely have them apart. So basically they will be at their table the whole time, unless, they have to use the restroom, or we are going to make it possible to do some games up front, safely distanced. We're working through logistics on all that sort of stuff. And then parents, once they drop their kids off, will, before the service starts, they will be able to go into, you'll see on the graphic to the left, they can just kind of continue straight on, so we're not bunching up in the hallway, and enter the worship center that way. Once the service does start, though, those doors in the front are going to be closed and they'll have to go back down the long hallway. Hopefully that'll encourage them to get there on time. That would be nice. So then since this is up, we'll just go ahead and jump into pickup. and then I can talk about the service itself. Again, green arrows are parents coming to us so they can come through either door into the north wing. And then when they come in the doors of the north wing, they're going to be greeted by a volunteer. And then we've kind of got indicated there will be the room dividers up so they can see their kids, but they're still separated from the kids. And they're going to walk around the side where you see the red arrows. And once they get up to the front, Jay's got his cursor there. They are going to pick up their child there from a second volunteer who's going to take the name tag, compare it, and then they will exit out those doors. So just we have a nice easy flow of traffic. We're not, battling the normal bunch in the hallway that we usually get. So does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I don't think, did I miss anything there, Jay?
No, that's fine. We'll go over some more of this when we get to like the safety protocols that we're going to have instituted for all of this. But yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great.
If you're done with this, I'll go back to the main screen.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, once the kids come to us, they'll get the hand sanitizer, they'll get a mask if they don't have one, they will be put at their seat with social distancing in mind. So we're trying to follow every precaution that we can to keep our kiddos safe and our volunteers. Our service obviously has to look a little bit different. So Jay came up with our kind of new, mantra of the big three. So we're going to focus on three main areas. We're going to do our teaching, obviously. We're going to have our worship, and we're going to have our games. Obviously, there will be some overlap in that kind of stuff, but those are the three main areas that we're going to focus on. And our anticipation is for that to each of those to be about a 15-minute block. Currently, the services are running, you've said about 50 minutes, Jay, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're about 50 or less.
Okay. So we're anticipating, not starting the same minute that they start in the big service, but anticipating having about 45 minutes with our kids. So that's how we're going to break it out. We are going to do everything that we can to keep it, lively and upbeat, and, hopefully have them at least standing to worship. And we're going to try to find some songs that'll kind of get them active, and hopefully we can continue to keep their attention, even though they're having to stay still. We are hoping that we can get 2 to 3 adult leaders and 1 to 2 student leaders every week, just to kind of help manage the extra stuff we've got to do. We've got to maintain distancing, and once the kids need to use the restroom, we're going to limit one child per, we've got 3 restrooms back there, but we're going to say 1 child in each of them at a time. And you know how it goes with kids. Once 1 has to go, then 12 have to go. And so we need the extra hands to kind of keep it on top of things like that. Passing out materials, since we are going to be sitting at the tables, that'll be an added need as well. Am I forgetting everything? I think that was pretty much it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I don't think you're forgetting everything. I think you've gotten pretty good. Yeah, and it's going to seem weird and it's going to feel weird, but the big three are the things that are generally in our materials, and I think it just calling them out and saying we have 15 minutes for this, that just kind of helps us think through what needs to actually take place. Obviously, we want the primary, the most important part of this to be the teaching side of it, but there's also that component of we want the kids to have fun. I think I've made the statement a couple of times already. We want kids to want to come to C3Kids, and so there has to be that element of fun and engagement, and even a little bit of that spontaneity that just makes kids ministry so attractive for kids. And even as we think about the worship, part of that is, we might, 1 week do a skit and do the singing, just kind of mixing things up as we have the volunteers available, and really try to make it more engaging and fun for them. So especially when we're asking them to sit at tables, they're going to be, they get that at school, and now they're coming on Sundays and we're saying you got to sit at a table, that whole time. So yeah, so hopefully that all works. So any questions on that part of it, of what it'll look like? Okay. So you guys are, I think you're all experts here. So you're familiar with the grow material that we were using. We're going to continue using that. We'll just focus on, what's the fun component that we can pull out for the game time? What's the main teaching points? Still utilizing the videos when we can utilize the videos, and then the singing component of that. So we're still going to continue to use the grow, and I think that material lends itself well to be adapted for what we're going to try to do with this hybrid, even with the varying age groups. I think we'll be able to make it fun for them. All right, let me go through. Kristin already mentioned kind of what we're looking for as for leaders. Obviously, we've got what our ideal numbers are going to look like, and then we have our kind of more of our realistic numbers. And so ultimately what we would like to see happen during this season, Kristin said, I think he said two to four adults is what our goal is. We'd love to see at least that many in there. And as well with students, 1 to 2, maybe 3 students in there helping out with each week. The realistic side of that is I think I've got enough volunteers that are coming back that we can staff each week, using both River Kid leaders and Outfitter Kid leaders. I think we have enough leaders to do a 4-week rotation. So that's the positive. That's putting 2 adults in the hybrid gathering each week. We're still working on trying to connect with the Mountain Kid volunteers. A small handful of them have said they're ready to come back, and so we're looking at what's the best way for us to pair them up and put them in with that group of kids. So that aspect of it is still working. But we are putting the word out to parents, where we're going to start asking parents to maybe help in some of those ancillary volunteer roles. As we think about the safety protocols, we know we want to have a few extra adults stationed in key areas. One, to keep traffic flow moving so that we're not bunching up or allowing crowds to kind of become an issue. We're not going to do individual check-in. We're going to have somebody holding the iPads, checking people in. So we're limiting a contact touch point. They'll be able to grab their labels, but we're going to do the iPad plug-in. So we need some extra folks to do that. And then, as Kristin already said, an extra volunteer to help at the pickup area and at the welcome area, so we can move kids in and out without too much buildup of people standing there. I did talk with Jay Adams, and we're going to get together and look at what signage and stickering needs to be done, so that we can just put those visual reminders for folks to either keep moving or to, space yourselves a little bit while you are waiting for your kid to be checked in or to be picked up. So that's kind of the leadership need we have. We are estimating for each week, we will need a total of 14 volunteers to make C3Kids work in this hybrid model. This includes the Outfitter Kids and the Mountain Kids. So each week we're looking for 14. That breaks down to about 10 adults and 4 students is what we're looking for. And like I said, we have enough to make it work with 2 in there, but ultimately we'd like to see it get to that place where we can manage that. So something for us to be praying about, because it's a lot of volunteers to bring in each week, and we're not even close to that yet. So, All right. Any thoughts or questions about leaders or leadership?
Question, this is just gonna be for the 11 o'clock service,
Mhm.
11:15?
Yeah.
Okay, because I do assist with the other, for greeting at the 9 and 11 service, so I'm gonna have to figure that one out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of us are going to have to kind of figure out where and how, and I mean, that's just one of the things we've talked about from a leadership perspective at C3 is, you know, we recognize that there are leaders that are serving in multiple teams, and now as we try to bring everything back, we're going to kind of be in that bottleneck place of, you know, how do we get folks to be able to serve in the areas that they feel called to serve in. And so we realize that that also means some people are going to say, you know what, for this season, I feel God's calling me to do this ministry. And so we've already seen that with a lot of our volunteers. I think we've lost about eight to 10 volunteers who have just said, I need to take a step back from C3Kids because I feel like God's asking me to do this. And, you know, of course, we're not going to say, no, you can't leave. But when they do that, it does leave us with less leaders in our pool. So that's one of our realities that we're dealing with at this point. So any other questions about leadership? I want to go over safety precautions, and then you guys can drill us with any other questions you might have. All right, so for safety precautions, we have looked both at the, I should not say both, we've looked at CDC, we've looked at the West Virginia DHHR, and we have been consulting the Ohio County School District, looking at what the best recommendations are for getting kids together. And so we're pretty much going to shadow what is being done in the schools, because that's kind of the standard. And since most of our kids are going to be in that school system, we're going to put into place something they should already be well aware of and comfortable doing. So obviously, for all volunteers, students, and adults, we'll be wearing masks while we are serving and in the building and around students or kids. We are also going to require that all kids pre-K through 5th grade wear masks, and that is the Ohio County School District's policy. So any kid who's in the classroom is already going to be aware that they have to wear their masks. So we're going to just follow along with that because it'll be an easy adjustment for us. Kristin did talk about the tabling. So kind of looking at the families that we are expecting to show. Most of them have multiple kids. We can think of the Wallaces and the St. Clairs and the Browns and other families like that. And so if they were to show, we would put whatever that family unit is, they would have their table and they would sit as a family unit. With kids who come from, you know, a smaller family, they will be teamed up at a table with another kid. And based on kind of what I'm thinking, and Kristin said we do have to make some measurements, make sure it's okay. I'm kind of thinking that we'll have at max 3 kids per table, kind of sitting in a triangle fashion. That should give us pretty close to what we would need for that social distancing. If it doesn't, we'll go to 2 kids per table and they will be across from each other. The reorientation of the room allows us to have those tables kind of spread out so that we're going wider instead of deeper. So even if a kid's at a further table, they're not going to feel like they're clear across the room as they would if we were using the corner set up like we did. We'll have the drop down screen, so that'll be great. And we'll have the sound system set up so that we can reach those kids in kind of that fan shape, looking towards that large drop down screen. So that's the tables. And then when it comes to disinfectant, we have already in place plenty of hand sanitizer, wipes, sprays, and we're just going to utilize them to make sure that we are spraying everything down, cleaning everything up. And probably what will happen is when the room gets set up either on Thursday or Friday, we'll do the initial setup and then the initial spray down so that we know everything's gone through and gotten sprayed. And then come Sunday morning, I most likely will come in, give it another spray. And then as we wrap up, whoever's on that volunteer team for that week will give everything another spray. We have the option of using wipes and wiping down tables, or we can use what we use in our River Kids and Mountain Kids. It's a no wipe disinfectant spray, which means you spray it and you let it rest on the area that you sprayed so that it can do whatever it is that it does to get rid of germs in that area. When it comes to things like crowns or pens, I think we're going to try to not use as much of that as possible. But if we do, obviously we'll put what's needed for that table, and then as we collect those things, they'll be put into a container where they can be cleaned as well. So that comes to that. Kristin did mention that we will have extra masks on hand, kid-size masks as well as adult-size masks. So if something were to happen, we can replace their mask or give them another mask. And we will also have a couple boxes of rubber gloves on hand too, just so if someone feels like they want to, have an extra layer of protection, we'll have that available for them as well. And I think that's about it for the disinfectant side, the safety protocols. Kristin, I don't know if I'm missing anything. I think I've got it all.
I think so.
So, any questions, any concerns, any thoughts you guys have had to any of this, or maybe something you've been thinking about for a while and you just want to get it off your chest or ask why or whatever?
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I am so impressed with you and Kristin. I think you have done an incredible job. It is obvious that you have really thought this out for the kids' protection and for our protection. Your enthusiasm, both of you, it's contagious. We need some of that right now. I don't know, maybe some of you are like me, feeling less than enthusiastic at this point in our world. So I just want you to know I really appreciate what you guys have done, and it's outstanding, and the kids are really going to benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, it's a hard thing because I think in my gut, I want to just jump back and get the kids in and get everything up and running again. And that's just not our reality right now. And so, even as Ted and I have talked about this months ago, we kind of had certain things in our minds. And again, none of this is ideal. We hate to do the way we're doing it, but I think for just that comfort level, like everything else, even as we think about the church, slow steps to bring different ministries back. And even this week, Ted kind of gave us on our leadership call the freedom to say no and to do things the right way. And I think that's just where we are right now is, we have to say no to some things so we can say yes to other things. And those yeses, we're putting a lot of effort and time and thought into them to make them really, really good.
Jay, what if a child refuses to wear a mask?
That is a good question. And part of that is, I think we're going to have to either send them back with their parents, or I don't know what we have. Kristin, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if they're refusing from the point of drop off, then I think that needs to be a conversation with the parents right there of, that's our policy. We're following what the schools are doing. And if that's not okay with them, then they can sit with you in the service. If they rip it off while we're in the middle of something, then we utilize our system to put the number up on the screen in the adult service to get the parents back there. It's a safety issue. Yeah. So I unfortunately, I think we have to have just kind of zero tolerance with that.
Yeah, good.
Where do we, if the child's refusing to wear a mask, where do you walk the child out of the room with everyone else, or what, how do you evacuate the child?
Yeah, I think for the outfitter kids, it would be easy enough just to move them to the hallway. And, you know, again, with the hope of having those extra volunteers, we can have a volunteer with that child, just get them out of that space. The nice thing too about the north wing is that space is large enough, and we will have those barriers up that even if we just remove them to that space, I think we might be okay. When it comes to the mountain room, those kids are going to be 3 and under, and so they're not going to be required to wear a mask. So, you know, I'm hoping that that won't be an issue in that space there. But yeah, there are a number of things that I think Kristin and I have kind of said, these are things that we're going to have to kind of experience and learn as we go, just not knowing how to fully, you know, do some of this. But I think that's a great question. And the zero tolerance for the older kids might be our best step forward. So.
Okay, and if we have a child that's younger and we're doing a lesson, like how are the lessons going to be for everybody? Because you're talking what, pre-K on up. You're not going to have the focus for the little ones if we're teaching at a higher level. So how do we keep those children entertained as well? We have coloring pages, work pages. I'm not sure how.
I think we probably will avoid, try to avoid doing coloring pages simply because then we're going to have to sanitize all that stuff. The nice thing is Outfitter Kids is already kindergarten through 5th. So we are already teaching to that age, and we are just going down to pre-K. So we're really just bumping down by probably a year. And yes, obviously, like we've discussed, that's part of the reason that we want some extra volunteers to try to hang out near the little kids and kind of help rein their focus in. But Jay and I have also talked about the fact that these kids have not been in the North Wing for over a year. We do not have any grand assumptions about what we're going to be able to accomplish the first couple of months. We really are just trying to kind of get them back into the routine. So our lessons, obviously, I hope our lessons are wonderful and they learn a lot. Realistically, I hope that they focus long enough that, I can get through the lesson. Right. So that part will probably be shorter. We're looking at some different things. We're going to utilize, Jay mentioned skits. We'll have videos. We like to try to pull out good object lessons. Anything that we can do to help grab their attention. We're definitely looking at every possible option to sort of keep them entertained, as you said.
They may not want to go back. They may enjoy it.
Oh, no. This model's not here to stay.
No, I'm not going back to that room.
No, my goal is to get River Kids up as soon as we can get River Kids up and running.
I hear you.
So, and I think that Kristin answered that beautifully. I think part of this too is what's going to fall on us as leaders is that as we are engaging them, we are recognizing that we want to make sure that we're capturing. So it's learning not to linger too long on something that we're starting to see kids checking out on. I kind of think the way this material is written, the kids that I worry more about are the 5th graders who are kind of the older ones and kind of look at some of the stuff that's happening and they're already thinking this is too kiddie for me. And so I think we just have to manage that balance between, what they're offering us as far as, so they gave us 2 videos. So good example. So we might say, one video would work better one week as opposed to another video working a little better. So if we use the pre-K video, that's with puppets and animation, and that's fun, and geared really more for K and pre-K. But maybe the next week we're doing the elementary video, which is geared more for the older kids. So I think it's going to be a matter of looking at each week's individual lesson and saying what's going to be the best way to convey the message and keep things moving, light, fun, and energetic. And I think it's going to lean more on object lessons, activities, and games that we can incorporate in there to say this helps us to emphasize the lesson.
And you said about using the numbers up on the big screen. We'll go through all of that as well on, last time we had the, to call a number. Well, I know for myself, my self-service, as soon as I'm in that building, is way down. So that's another, thing if for my service anyways. I don't know if others had that issue. Do we just send someone to the booth
I would do.
get the number in there, because I don't know if, even some of the younger kids that just, are not able to focus and they're disrupting the entire thing, or, being the first time back, not like wanting to follow the guidelines. And it could be an older kid too, just, not being ruly. I'm just thinking on the worst case scenario from what, sometimes we've seen before, but we could adjust that, and let them go and play with the toys or whatever.
Yeah, no doubt the first couple weeks are going to be a lot of trial and error in what we want to see happening versus what actually happens. But yeah, one of the things I've already kind of tagged as a long-term problem that needs resolution is our parent alert system and how we best communicate that. So, ideally with the hybrid, we have enough extra hands that we can send somebody up to the table. I am not assigning myself a week to teach so that I can be more available to you guys as you're in that space, so that if there is a situation, I'm there, someone will be there to help, run numbers or get parents or whatever. So again, this is going to be a learning process for us. Like Kristin said, we're not expecting the first couple of weeks to be like, here we are driving home our Bible lessons. It's going to be a lot of education and re-education of what students need to be doing in that space. So it's just something we're going to have to kind of work towards together.
Yeah, and please don't get me wrong, I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I was just wanting to know for future.
Yep. No, and this is why we're doing this, because we want to make sure that we haven't forgotten something, and we're sure we have. I mean, there's no doubt there's something going to pop up where we're going to be like, oh, we never even thought about that. So these questions help us think broader and bigger, and hopefully get better answers.
I've been vaccinated, so I mean, I'm good with wherever you want to plug me in. I just don't want to beg people to come and teach. I don't want to beg adults to do anything.
Yeah, and that's the fine line that we're on. So even with our leaders, I've been very careful not to put an expectation on anybody, and more saying, if you're comfortable and ready to come back, we'd love to welcome you back. If you're not, there's no pressure. We're not rushing anybody into it. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of our leaders that aren't ready to come back, and that's okay. It just is going to make us look at how we're doing this, and we're going to have to do it a little differently. And so if we can get a few parents that are willing to come and just be an extra set of hands in the room, or to be a hallway monitor, or to help check people in, like that's kind of what we're hoping on. So there's no pressure for any of our leaders to return. But yeah, the ones who are ready to come back,
will you just assign me a spot?
Yeah, so after this call, we'll send out some more information, and everybody's going to be in the outfitter room, so that kind of lets everybody know where we're going to be serving. More so, it'll be asking you what dates are you available and what role would you like to best fulfill, and that could be if you'd rather be the the lead teacher will bring you in that week as the lead teacher. If you'd rather be an extra set of hands or the helper or however you want to be used, however you're comfortable being used, that's where we are right now. We're just giving a lot of grace and space for people to kind of come back at this in the way that they're comfortable coming back to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be a great opportunity to get some new leaders as these parents step in just to be hands in the background, and they see that this is something they could really do and enjoy. So maybe something very positive will come out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you remember back in March, we were launching the whole try a team thing as a way to invite people into the ministry teams to see what happens. It's kind of that idea of if we invite just some helpers, maybe.
Hook, line, and sinker.
And I think calling it helper and not calling it teachers or leaders,
Yes.
you know, those
That scares
words intimidate people, scares
Yep.
people.
Yeah, and Adam did a great job this past Sunday in the 11:15 service, and saying that we're going to need extra help from parents just to come and volunteer. And so we're actually going to do this call again next Wednesday, hopefully with parents, where we're going to kind of walk through some of these same things that we are with you guys, but also say to the parents, you know, this is only really going to happen if we have volunteers, because we are in this place where people are just, some are ready and some aren't, and that's okay, but we're gonna need some extra hands. And so letting parents know that we're looking for help as opposed to teaching. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again, if you have any questions, any concerns, please feel free to reach out. Like I said, starting tomorrow, we'll start looking for schedules and who wants to be where, and we'll start running that stuff out to everybody. So you can be looking forward to those emails and Facebook posts. Yeah, if you haven't, there are still a number of people we haven't heard from. So maybe just if you are comfortable sharing, hey, we're excited, can't wait to come back. That might be the words of encouragement somebody else might need to say, I'm ready to come back too. So yeah. Kristin, any closing thoughts or comments for us here?
I think just thank you to you guys for jumping on the call and for your continued faithfulness to the C3Kids ministry through this very weird season. We really are excited to get back. Jay and I have talked about how to make April a month-long party in C3Kids just to really get everybody, including the kids, the parents, get everybody really excited about it, because we are. So we're glad that you all will be a part of it.
I second that. Have a party.
We sense your enthusiasm. It's contagious. It really is.
I miss my kids.
I did too.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard, but we'll be there. All right, let me close our time in prayer. Again, thank you so much for being a part of this. And if any other concerns, questions, I know I've already said it twice, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to connect with you and answer any more questions you might have. But would you guys join me in prayer? One last time. God, again, what an awesome call we have to love on and share who you are with students and to help them take their next step of faith. What a great privilege that is. And so as we think about April 11th and welcoming kids back into the building, relaunching this hybrid season of ministry, we ask, Lord, that you would just be in and through all of the different moving parts that are still being worked out. I thank you for the volunteers who have served so faithfully for so many years. And now as they look forward to being back with kids and back into the world of ministry, Lord, that you would just bless their efforts and their lives with joy because of what we get to do. I do pray for those kids that will be coming and for the families. And we know how much people have been looking forward to this return. And so Lord, we just want to give all of this to you and trust that you're gonna do something really fun and exciting this summer with C3Kids. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.